In a quiet, gated suburb, a father sought healing for his daughter after unimaginable loss. But behind the manicured lawns and perfect smiles hid something cruel, something no one dared confront. Until now, this is the story of a teenage pianist, a father's quiet fight, and the moment a community was forced to choose between appearances and truth. My name is Darius Wren. Name is them. For nearly 2 decades, I worked in federal security protecting diplomats, analyzing threats, managing crisis scenarios where failure meant more than just headlines. I have been shot at in foreign deserts and lied to in cold conference rooms. I have seen power abused and justice delayed, but I never expected the hardest battle I'd ever face would happen on a clean, tree-lined street in a gated Utah suburb, or that it would begin with a look. 4 months ago, I moved to Brookhaven Ridge with my 14-year-old daughter, Liana, after losing my wife in a drunk driving accident. I left Washington behind to start over somewhere quieter. Liana survived that crash with nerve damage, partial facial paralysis, and vision loss in her left eye. The doctors said she'd never play piano the same way again. They didn't know my daughter. By the time we unpacked our last box, Liana had already adapted her fingering technique. She practiced every night. Her notes filled the house again, not flawless, but full of fight. I saw it every time she sat at that bench. Her left eye couldn't see the keys, but her heart knew exactly where to land. Brookhaven Ridge was supposed to be a haven. Instead, we met Marla Granger. She introduced herself 3 days after we moved in. Mid-50s, immaculate makeup, logo-embroidered blazer from her own cosmetic line. She handed me a welcome packet and looked past Liana like she wasn't there. "I run the HOA here," she said. "We keep the neighborhood refined." The pause in her voice wasn't long, but it was loud. I've spent my life reading tone, body language, micro-expressions. Her smile tightened when she turned to Liana. She didn't say hello. She just handed me a printed schedule of private gym hours and whispered, "Some families prefer quiet time for more sensitive members." I didn't respond. "Not yet." Liana said it didn't bother her. She always says that. But I noticed how she adjusted her hoodie after Marla left. Pulled it tighter. Lower. The first incident was subtle. At the Community Talent Showcase, Liana played a Chopin nocturne she'd spent weeks perfecting. When she finished, the room applauded politely until Marla sighed and muttered loud enough for people nearby to hear. Some talents don't belong on stage. Liana didn't say anything that night. But the piano sat untouched for 3 days. Then came the community barbecue. It was a warm Sunday. Liana had been smiling again, laughing as she joined a volleyball game with some of the neighborhood kids. I stood near the grill, flipping burgers and watching her move freely for the first time in weeks. That's when Marla arrived. She strolled up beside her teenage son, Bennett, gave him what looked like a casual tip on his serve, and then, suddenly, the volleyball flew directly at Liana's face. It wasn't clumsy. It wasn't fast. It was aimed. The ball struck her left temple. She collapsed, clutching the side of her face. Blood trickled from a reopened stitch near her eye. Marla rushed over, face frozen in exaggerated concern. "Oh dear, these games can get wild," she said. Then added, almost as an afterthought, especially for kids with limitations. That night, Liana cried in my arms. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. She didn't ask me to fix it. But I did. For 19 years, I had filed threat reports, collected evidence, built airtight cases. I knew what real cruelty looked like. What made Marla dangerous wasn't just her bigotry. It was how she wrapped it in politeness, in policies, in plausible deniability. I started documenting everything. I pulled footage from our porch cams and nearby residents. I recorded HOA meetings where Marla pushed subtle revisions to beauty standards. I captured her suggesting to board members that houses with low curb appeal lower property values. I even found a handwritten memo in a public HOA folder listing Liana's name under appearance concerns. No justification, just a name. But the moment that changed everything came from a neighbor, Reina Soto, a nurse, longtime resident. She came by that week with a flash drive. It contained footage from the barbecue, her own security cam, angled just right to catch Marla smirking seconds after the volleyball hit Liana. Not shock, not worry, satisfaction. And that wasn't all. I dug deeper, through legal filings, old news blurbs, and a network of former employees. I discovered Marla's cosmetic empire had settled 2 lawsuits related to ADA discrimination. One plaintiff claimed Marla told her, "Imperfections don't sell." I built a case, not for court yet, but for truth. At the next HOA board meeting, I requested to speak. Marla tried to limit me to 2 minutes. Reina overruled her. I started with the footage, then the memos, the lawsuits, the pattern. I watched the room shift, from polite silence to horror to outrage. Marla tried to deflect, claimed it was all taken out of context, that I was bitter, that I was projecting, that I was emotionally unstable from my wife's death. But she wasn't prepared for the final blow. Bennett, her son, stood up. "I don't know what my mom's been telling you," he said, voice shaking. "But that serve. She told me to hit hard and aim left. She said it would knock some sense into her." The room fell into stunned silence. Marla's expression cracked. The board moved swiftly. She was suspended from all duties pending investigation. An emergency vote followed weeks later, unanimous removal. A financial audit revealed she had misused funds for beautification incentives for friends' homes. But the real legacy she left behind wasn't scandal. It was a choice to replace fear with inclusion. Brookhaven Ridge formed a new committee for inclusion and accessibility. Guidelines were rewritten. Language changed. Liana was invited to help design community art events for kids with adaptive needs. But her real moment came months later. A state music event invited her to perform an adaptive recital. She played a bold Rachmaninoff etude. Left hand trembling, eyes steady. When she finished, the crowd stood. Among them, Bennett Granger, later. He handed her a note from his mother, a written apology. Liana read it in silence, then looked at me. Should I reply? "That's your choice," I said. She did. Her message was simple. "People can change. Thank you for recognizing my work. I still wake early sometimes, out of habit. Watch the quiet streets before dawn. No threats here, just memories and reminders. Sometimes the most powerful justice isn't delivered through punishment. It's earned through change. And sometimes the strongest people are the ones who never needed to raise their voice, only their truth." That's my daughter, that's Liana, and this is how she changed everything.